Ubiquitous is the kingdom where nothing dies, where all things shine. Always belongs to the divine Son, our true essence, our true soul. It's now time to grow inside, without limits of perfection, with mind of light that illumines, the heart that reconciles, true soul whisper in dreams and longing, carrying a divine calling. O kingdom of light, divine mother, keep shining upon Gaia, inspiring true hope and light. Cosmic Mother, thank you for making us shine, and be your real light. Ubicuo es el reino donde nada muere y todo se ve. Pertenece al divino Hijo, nuestro ser verdadero. Es tiempo ya de crecer dentro, sin límites de perfección, con mente de luz que ilumina el corazón que reconcilia. Almas susurran sueños llenos, llevando el gran llamado, reino de vida, Madre divina, sigue brillando sobre Gaia, inspirando vida, luz y esperanza. Padre universal, gracias por hacernos brillar y ser tu vida real.
Welcome once again to Space and Harmony, in Harmonia of Life. The hymn I just sang and played on the piano for you began to take shape in my mind and my heart several years ago, around 2009, when I was working as a private musician and also playing on the piers of Dublin and Wicklow. And I very often composed on the beach, singing. However, I could not work with the armonías because I didn't have a keyboard. And later on in Spain, I began to work on the armonías, not the harmonies, because I don't harm anyone. But for some reason I stopped composing and left the piece on the backstage of my mind to work with it later on, as I do with many compositions. However, one day I had a sort of lucid dream, more like an out-of-body experience. I was sitting on the edge of my bed with clear light, while my body was sleeping in total darkness because the room was dark. However, I was sitting on the edge with my left hand covered with a bandage that somehow had blood. And on my right hand side there was a woman who was tanned by the sun. Actually she looked like a peasant, and she was singing my hymn. I don't know if the lyrics were connected to what I wanted to sing, but she was singing something very beautiful with the armonías I wanted, and in her own language, which I identified as some form of Balkanic language, maybe Yugoslavian or Serbian, I don't know. And when I woke up, I realized that I had to convey a message with that hymn, and somehow she was encouraging me to do it. And since I had the left hand covered in blood, that might mean it was an invitation to sacrifice my own egoism, to go beyond mechanicalness. Now, why I'm telling you all this? Because we must establish a profound connection with our divine soul, which actually communicates with us in many ways. As I've said in some occasions, the divine soul is a neuron in the divine cosmic brain. And as you may know, the Dr. Ramón y Cajal from Spain discovered actually neurons and their structure. They have a sort of root called axon and other extensions called dendrites, with which neurons communicate or exchange information by means of electrochemical impulses, supposedly. And this is how the cells of the nervous system keep the whole tissue connected and communicated, and this is exactly the same in a cosmic dimension with the souls. If you notice, bushes, trees, plants always have the splits, just like the soul. I am the true vine, and you are the branches, said the Master. There are several dendrites or beam extensions of light that come from souls, and those beams extend to psyches in the human bodies, so there can be a connection. And this was in ancient times described as the marriage between psyche and spirit, or the human and the divine. There are many allegories, but this is actually something very literal. We have an extension of a divine soul coming into our inside in the form of loving conscience and vitality and calm. And in the same way, soul dendrites can extend to a group of people which would have inside what we may call sister souls, and within that group there might be even a single dendrite which is connected to two, just as we see the split of branches in nature. What I mean is that sometimes a single beam of light might be connected to two people. Some may speak of twin souls, but it's an advanced form of communication in which a single dendrite is able to expand the experience. Let's say one is female polarity and the other masculine polarity. But those are relative terms because the being is the same. So there is no separation. Somehow this seems similar to what some people may call twin soul. But in the domain of New Age religion there is much egoism with this subject. I'm referring to something which is more connected to spiritual evolution, a messianic role. So a twin soul would be a rather mature dendrite living through two people. And they might or might not come together, but somehow they inspire each other if they are sufficiently awakened. Now, the more connected we are with our dendrite inside, the more likely we are to be guided by the being of light and get into contact with people that are connected to the dendrites in the same divine soul to which we are connected. We might consider our dendrite as an individual soul, but this must be a very intimate relation, and we must be very aware of all the guidance that we are receiving from this deeper dimension of ourselves. And it's a relationship of utter fidelity. It's important to love ourselves first, so we can love others. Otherwise we get caught in the dimension of the ego, which is the experience of great obfuscation, experience of great darkness, in which we get cut off from the influence of this higher will and conscience. And obviously our life becomes destructive. We go through accidental paths that are not meant for us at all. The more connected we are, the less likely we are to experience tragical accidents or things like that. Sometimes when the mission is over, then something might happen, but this is something concerning the physical body, not the true being. So we must be faithful and marry our divine soul through the dendrite, learning to speak divine language, which is language of unconditional love, the light of truth, who we really are, the vitality. We should be able to stop feeding all the excess food and addictions that lower the vitality of the body. Health must take place on sexual, physical, emotional and mental levels, so there can be a spiritual connection, otherwise it's impossible. And it's also very important to keep calm in spite of all the circumstances. Our being of light will find a way to guide us by means of dreams, meetings with other people. Even in nature we can be guided with intuitions, but it's necessary to open, to listen, and not get too dependent on technology. In one occasion I was being told about a whole stream of events that took place in another life. My soul was connected to a woman in another life, and I was shown different episodes of this woman in the dream, and a voice spoke within me, telling me that was an eternal path I had been living. But suddenly the mobile phone rang and it completely stopped the experience. I woke up obviously very annoyed because it was an important message, but there is nothing I can do. Big doses of humility and connection are needed. This is why it's important not to use technology too much. For instance, I rarely use the mobile phone except for texting some messages or speaking in particular occasions or listening something specific, but very rarely I'll take the mobile phone. Today you see many people constantly absorbed with the tablets and mobile phones, and this generates a disconnection which is not healthy on any level. So I invite you to look for moments of quietness and connection with the birds, with the trees, because that's very important. The more life we allow into ourselves, the more we help to establish the connection, because our being loves us and wants to be born and act through us, making the necessary connections. So I hope to continue making videos. If you enjoy them, let me know in the comments if you wish. And until the next time, feel the unconditional love that opens a space to the light of truth and life and calm. Blessings.